Hi, fam. I'm the bootleg bodhisattva, Reverend Nadine Morsh, interfaith minister.
And I'm Possum, screaming out into the void. KT Sunshine. And
And us
us
freaks
freaks
gotta
gotta
stick
stick together.
together. Listener, your scream is very important to us. Please stay on this line and someone will be with you shortly. Dear listener, it is Casual Friday and we're going to take a moment this week to sit and be with just the incredible deluge of terrible policies
Yep.
that we've been forced to endure so far.
This is a totally intentional, totally different formatting for this week.
Yeah, we're not going to present the news as normal, although I'm sure we are going to talk about various news stories. Um, we're just going to chit chat about that this
Yeah.
week because
Because the news keeps happening at us.
yeah, and it's especially frustrating knowing that by the time our production wraps for this episode, there's going to be an entirely new slew of really terrible things because that seems to just be, the escalation that's happening to us at this moment
Usually,
in time.
I like the news to happen with me and not at me, but that's just not where we're at right now.
No, yeah, it's definitely an attack
Yeah.
on the psyche of America, and especially the psyche of any marginalized people in America of any variety. It's been a lot. So, with that being said, dear listener, there will probably be some adult language in this show.
This is our disclaimer.
This is our disclaimer. Yeah, adult language, adult content.
Definitely going to be some of that.
We're going to have to talk about violence because violence is being perpetrated on working people, ordinary freaks like us. So, RFK Jr. has said some pretty alarming things about autism while also doing some pretty alarming things around autism. So, step one was cutting funding for autism research. Then, step two was making a statement saying that, quote unquote, we're doing this to our kids and that he plans to find the cause of autism by September. Which is odd because we already know the cause of autism from all of the research that has already been done, which is that autism is genetic and simply a way of having a neurotype.
It's just a way of being.
It's a way of being.
Yeah. And it exists on a spectrum too. And not everybody
Yep.
presents in that same way.
Yep. Yeah. So that's really odd.
It's concerning. These are the concerning things to say.
Yeah,
Especially when
it's
you combine it with all the other concerning things he
with
said.
the anti-vax stuff in particular.
Yeah.
It's
And his whole farms thing.
yeah, wanting to send, let's see, it was people with ADHD, people recovering from substance abuse, and people who are on antidepressants to quote unquote happy farms.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is like an 1800s idea
Yeah.
that they already know really only works if the people are there voluntarily.
And fully resourced and not hundreds, but handfuls.
Right? Like 30 people who can work and
This was all
rest as they see fit.
Yeah, this was all built on the idea of moral compassion, which was a system they set up by a handful of doctors at the time. It's got its own unique and interesting history, but it has kind of morphed into the system that we have today.
Right? With some missteps along the way.
Lots of missteps, a lot of abuse, sometimes outright slavery,
Yeah.
torture. Um, it's funny that we're coming back around to this because John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy, along with Eunice Kennedy Shriver, are all people who've worked to reform the mental health system in this country. John, just a month before his death in 1963, John F. Kennedy's assassination, signed a bill aiming to reform the American healthcare system right after One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest came out. That was one of the things that spawned the conversation around why our mental health system was monstrous in this country.
Right.
And they've done a lot of work to make it less monstrous, but it is still monstrous.
Yeah.
Eunice, actually, she's the person who started the Special Olympics.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So super ironic that RFK Jr. is essentially trying to wind the clock back to before his father and uncle's reforms.
Yeah.
That's a little weird.
It's especially weird because John's sister, which I guess is his aunt, they lobotomized. Her family lobotomized her.
Yeah, that's intensely barbaric.
It was back in the 30s, which was very barbaric at the time too. But in the 30s, it was a brand new treatment gonna cure the mentally ill, and it most definitely did not.
It did turn people basically into zombies.
Yeah, it met with varying degrees of brain damage.
Yeah, it's interesting the lengths that the neurotypical will go to in order to make different neurotypes conform to their way of existing.
Well, I mean, if you think about it in terms of capitalism wants cogs in the machine. They don't want a human being that's not cut out for that machine.
Mm,
The machine's not designed for them, so they don't have any value under
right.
capitalism.
And the whole idea is to try and reform them or put them in a situation where they would be producing some kind of surplus value for capitalism.
Yes, this is not about curing autism.
Right.
I mean, this might be about getting rid of autistic people, but this is not about curing autism. This is either about getting them to conform to the machinery of our lives, or to not exist within our lives.
Yep. I mean, that's sort of similar to all of the bathroom bills around trans people, because the whole point of those, right, is to make it so that trans people can't exist in public.
Yeah.
And then also, too,
I mean, it'll go further than that. Yeah. But
right.
that's what
But
they want to
that's
do.
step one is, force people out of public life. And then step two is disappear them. And then fewer people will notice because they've already been pushed out of public life.
Well, this narrows our societal view of different ways of being.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you can't see other people living different ways, then the only way when you're growing up, or even when you're old, the only way you know to live is through that narrow view that they've allowed you to see.
Right.
That's cleaning up undesirables.
Yeah. Yep. So it's important to note that the agency itself has proclaimed that all of this data gathering will be de-identified and depersonalized in accordance with privacy policies, but they're also aiming to change privacy policies in healthcare. So
They've been undermining HIPAA. They've been trying to, yeah. So
yeah.
like if it's gonna meet with the standard, which is currently HIPAA, but they're attacking HIPAA, then who knows what a HIPAA standard will be in a year.
Right. I mean, we keep seeing the exact same play over and over again, which is part of why I'm so frustrated at Democrats in particular, because it's the playbook over and over again is just, what are you going to do about it?
This is McCarthyism. It's McCarthyism. They don't stop to think that this is worse than McCarthyism. McCarthy was bad, and I'm not understanding that, but this is so much worse.
Yeah.
This is so much bigger than that.
Right. This is the president trying to figure out how to deport citizens to a torture prison in El Salvador. Bad.
This is Trump does something terrible or gets newly elected, and they freak out and they call him a fascist for 2 weeks, and then they try to walk it back. It makes us feel like we're fucking crazy. Because
yeah,
I'm all like, when I talk to people, I'm like, okay, this is happening. And we, last week we all knew it was happening. And then this week I'm exaggerating. I'm catastrophizing. I'm not. I'm just listening to what they've been telling us from day one, when the Trump administration tells you who they are, believe them and don't let the media walk that back for you.
Yeah. This is psychological abuse.
Well, yeah, it's gaslighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's intentional psychological abuse. It's meant to make people feel crazy and also to overwhelm them so much that they'll check out. That's what this
Yeah.
blitzkrieg of policies is. It's so much. That's part of the reason that you and I decided not to do the news headlines one by one this week, is just there's just so much to talk about that it's really hard to pick certain stories over other stories.
And it's hard to get them out before, like in a podcast, before they're just, I don't know, completely covered up by all the news stories that come in.
Right. Yep. Things
The
get
next avalanche.
slightly more dire every time you and I sit down to make a recording. And then by the
Yeah.
time it's been through production, there's a whole new avalanche, a whole new blitzkrieg for a whole new week.
I saw this really great YouTube video right before the election. Or it was right after the election. And I can't remember the guy who was on it, but he said, mark this moment. Mark this crossing the Rubicon. You know, Trump saying he's going to be a dictator on day one. And then he comes in and he says, and he calls himself a king. You know, he like makes a joke out of it. He laughs. Mark your Rubicon, you know, because it's not that there aren't more Rubicons. The thing is, we just keep passing them. And each one seems crazy at the time, but then you look back on it and you're like, oh, well, that's normal by comparison now. But then it just tricks you into thinking that, I forget where I'm going with this.
Fam, we're all frogs slowly being boiled alive in the rising tide of American fascism.
Yeah. Well, they want you to forget that the heat's on.
Did you see the political comic? It was two frogs in a pot. And one frog says, "Hey, is it getting hot in here or is it just me?" And the other frog says, "I don't want to talk about politics." Oof.
Yeah.
And that's what talking to the apolitical feels like right now. Like the apolitical in this moment that aren't God. I mean, and the thing is, you know, from a Spoony standpoint, of course I understand having to check out for your own sanity. You know?
Yeah. Well, if they kept up with it, they would feel just as crazy as we do.
Right. They'd have to start podcasts, and then there'd just be so many podcasts, you know?
If they accepted the reality of the situation, then they have to accept that they have to do something about the situation or accept that it's okay for them.
Yeah, right. I mean, for all of us right now, it seems like it's okay until it's not okay.
The threshold for a lot of people is when it affects them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just so disheartening, you know?
Yeah. It's very frustrating for someone who has been affected by it. But, you know, I have to admit that, like, I was very young, but I didn't know anything about nothing. You know? I only knew what my family taught. But when it affects you, that's when you start to deprogram from all the bullshit you've been taught by our society. All the bullshit that capitalism teaches you, all the bullshit that patriotism teaches you. This is the greatest country on earth. I love America.
And all the bullshit that patriarchy teaches us as well. Men are worth more than women. Women exist to do reproductive labor for free in the service of family.
It's easy to love America if you don't know what America's doing to people.
I mean, America has always had a big hype package attached to a really raw deal.
Yeah.
And that we're being forcibly dragged back to a time before our ancestors had some pretty massive victories on behalf of the working class against these oligarchs that have ruled our country the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
We've said
they're
on
talking
other
about
episodes.
the oligarchy right now in the news, but we've always been an oligarchy.
That's who founded this nation, fam.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of
always
aristocrats.
been this bad for us.
Yeah.
But we've always been an oligarchy. Our country was founded by aristocrats who owned slaves, they owned plantations, some of them owned factories,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time, that was when capitalism was forming, you know? That was still early days for capitalism. And as the nation has grown and time has progressed, we've become a capitalist country. But a capitalist country means that the people who own capital rule the country.
Yep.
How do you do that?
It's one
You
of
buy senators. You buy influence.
right.
You
become a
build
senator.
Carnegie Hall.
Yeah. You
You
become a
wield
senator
soft
yourself.
power. Yeah, you become a senator.
That's one of the reasons AOC upsets the right so much, is that she was a waitress.
Yeah,
And
she doesn't come from the political class.
right. Yeah. It's one of the reasons I had a lot of hope for her. And I mean, you know, you and I have talked a lot about how low the bar is for the left in this country.
Yeah.
And so, that anyone is doing anything good, that's great. I'm not going to dictate what form your resistance takes. I should hope that you won't dictate the form of resistance anyone else takes either, you dear listener.
I think maybe the time for progressive politics has passed. Like they tried to reform the Democratic leadership. They just don't have the time right now. They don't have the money. They don't have the power. And most of the time, when they came around with that progressive banner, that was really just the compromise with the actual left. Like Otto von Bismarck creating the first social welfare state.
Right.
That was the compromise to keep his country from being revolutioned by socialists. When FDR did it, that was the compromise to keep America and to keep the American oligarchs and capitalists in power.
Mm-hmm.
If we just cut people a little break, we give them just enough, they won't rebel.
Right.
And that's kind of where progressivism is failing us now, because they've been out of power for so long. They can't grasp any institutional power within the party. And it's just been so long since they've provided any victory for us that I mean, I don't believe that they're going to save us in this moment.
No. Hopefully they won't be a burden.
Yeah, there's no compromise left.
We'll see. Yeah.
They won't even compromise with us.
Yeah, it's been a very long time and also whittling away at the compromises that have been made. Like,
yeah,
if you think about the strength of unions in the 40s and 50s versus the strength of unions today. Although union membership is up in many cases, and there are a lot of people that are doing really good work on behalf of different unions, and also workers striking for the right to form a union.
Well, see, I think that's the moment, is people are seeing democratic politics for what they are, and they want an actual left. They want to get out and do something to bring this country back to its senses, back to the left.
You know, it would be hot. A general strike would be so hot.
Oh, that'd be so hot.
Oh. I'm just saying. Oh, that would be beautiful. Sustained by mutual aid.
That's the only way to do
it.
That's the only way to sustain a general strike.
A month-long general strike.
Oh, you don't know what you're doing to me. Oh, yeah. A month-long general strike?
We'd have to hydrate.
Oh, yeah.
Fam, it's just so much. You got to get silly sometimes to cope.
You gotta laugh to keep from crying.
I'll laugh and cry at the same time.
Okay, have you seen this thing where they arrested this judge inside her courtroom? Like, I just heard about it today. I don't know much about it.
Right, so she was accused of advising a migrant to flee ICE custody through the back door, I guess. I'm actually I've looked into this, but I'm sort of confused about the whole thing. If that's what she did, then good.
Well,
possibly not legal, but moral.
Well,
definitely.
But I mean, she has a responsibility to the Constitution to make sure that whatever punishment she metes out is not cruel and unusual.
Right.
And that's definitely ICE right now.
Yeah,
Always.
yeah.
ICE was always been
Foreign
that way.
torture prison is definitely cruel and unusual punishment. There's and without due process, which is inherently unconstitutional. Like there's this whole thing
Yeah.
where, the right is clapping back about Kilmar Abrego Garcia saying, he was a bad person or whatever. And here's the thing, it's not that that's not the point. B, it's not just about Abrego Garcia. It's about every single person that was on
Right.
an airplane without due process, without due process.
Without due process. But
That
also like
is
visas and
unconstitutional.
green cards.
Right. I mean, but even in spite of that, that doesn't matter. Even a traveler, even an immigrant gets due process under the Constitution.
Right. Because how do you know when you pick up somebody if that's actually the person who did the thing without due process? And
Precisely.
as flawed as due process in this country is,
Right.
like
Yes. It is one of the
it's a
only
start.
safeguards between whatever America is and tried and true proper fascism.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been fascism light.
Well, it depends on who you ask. You
Right.
know, if
Yeah.
you're a middle class white guy, that's been great.
Right.
But you
Any
start
of us
asking other people, they'll have a different opinion on it.
any of us freaks, for example.
Yeah.
All of us freak not, and that is precisely why us freaks
Freaks
gotta
gotta
stick
stick together.
together.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't have
So,
each other's back. Ain't nobody can have our back.
right. So, yeah, that's alarming, right? Judge getting arrested for, I don't know. And probably like what that judge did wasn't technically legal or whatever. But again, I'd say it was moral, whether or not it was legal. And also,
Well, if that's what happened.
right, right. And Pam Bondi came on one of the news outlets and essentially said, like, if you're a judge that doesn't agree with Trump's immigration policy, we're coming for you next.
Oh, that's interesting.
So,
Get in
yeah.
line, huh?
Yeah.
They're
You
trying to
know,
get
how
they're trying to
many?
get the judicial system to capitulate to them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and also, too, like, they've already proven in ignoring a unanimous Supreme Court decision. They've already proven that they don't really care what the outcome is in the court. Their
Yeah.
answer to that is, what are you going to do about it? And so far, the answer has been, oh, well, nothing, I guess.
Well, there is that judge who ordered them to bring back. Was it Abrego
I
Garcia?
believe
Was he
so,
the guy?
yes.
And he still, I think he gave the government so much time to do it. And I think the next step for him is deputizing marshals to go potentially go get the guy.
Right.
But we're not sure how that's going to shake out yet.
Yeah.
I think they still have like another 14 days or something to do it
We'll find out.
at time of recording. Yeah, so either the judicial system does something about it or the executive just keeps grabbing its power, I suppose.
Right.
And then the legislative branch has mostly bent the knee.
Yep.
So I guess the question we need to start asking ourselves is what are we going to do about that? Because the first, third, second, and fourth estates are crumbling quickly. Okay, so we kind of want to talk on this for a second. I don't know how other people are feeling right now, but it's really frustrating to me that one day the Trump will do something and the media will all, well, not all the media, but like the big TV talk show host and CNBC and MSNBC and stuff will call Trump a fascist. They'll say what he's doing is like the Nazis. And then a few days later, they walk that back. And they'll say, "Oh, he's not a fascist. Like this administration is sliding towards authoritarianism or something like that." But they'll like downplay the Trump's a Nazi, Trump's a fascist, he's a dictator, stuff like that. They'll walk it back. So when I talk to somebody and I hear them say Trump's a fascist, and I go talk to somebody and I say Trump's a fascist, and they look at me like I'm catastrophizing the situation because the media walked it back,
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
makes me feel a little crazy.
Yeah, that's definitely the point. Like it's blatant
Yeah.
gaslighting.
Yeah,
And
that's exactly what they're doing.
and we know why they walk it back. It's because all these oligarchs are in the same boat together.
Right. If they said that Trump was a fascist and they stuck to it, then we'd have to do something, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly. And so like that actually really reminds me of psychological and emotional and physical abuse like in a relationship, because like a crisis will happen where there's a blatant abuse, like something happens that's blatantly abusive, and at first the person might see it for what it is and say, oh, I have to leave, and then
Mhm.
after a couple days, they walk that back. They're, well, it wasn't that bad. Well, I kind of deserved it, or I'm the one that pushed him, that made him react that way, or whatever it is. I said the wrong thing to her and that was on me. This like walking back.
Trump's not really a fascist, but he's authoritarian tendencies.
Right, right. He has to work on his anger issues. But we
Yeah.
love him. So we'll stay, right?
Mhm.
So that's the interesting parallel there, I think. There are a lot of parallels between like individual abuse and the abuses that are happening on the macro, on the world stage right now.
I think this is definitely a macro reflects the micro, and the micro reflects the macro situation.
Yeah, because we wouldn't tolerate this kind of abuse on the world stage if we didn't tolerate it in our individual lives.
Well, I think it leaves so many people blind to it.
Mhm. Right.
And I also think that's one of the reasons why like a lot of people don't believe the media is because they'll say something like that and then they'll walk it back. They do all this sane washing of Trump,
Right.
you know? And I know like after January 6th, a lot of the news guys weren't willing to let that go.
Right.
But they let so many other things go, so many other stories that they probably should have just stayed on,
Right.
and rhetoric that they should have stayed on. Like, do you remember at the end of the first Trump presidency? That's when they started openly calling him a fascist on like Stephen Colbert
Yes.
and the late
Yeah.
night shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And then they stopped doing that
Right.
for almost 4 years while Biden was president.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they would continue to talk about how bad Trump was, but they would use that minimizing rhetoric.
Mhm.
And then now Trump's back. Somehow the emperor has returned, you know, and the media is still doing that. They'll call him a fascist a lot more these days, but it's not consistent.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely an interesting moment where the mirror is being held up to power and to ourselves as individuals, and we're seeing what it is that we will tolerate and what it is that we will stand up for.
Well, it feels like they're using that to push what we'll tolerate.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Trump's a fascist, but we're not going to do anything about it this week.
Right.
We're
Well,
just going to talk about another story. So
mhm,
next week he's going to do something even worse.
right.
And maybe we'll say he's a fascist. And then we'll just go to the next story. And then
Right.
until what? He has full power? Like, there's full control?
Right.
Uh,
Right. So that actually really reminds me of again, individualized abuse, where you're in a partnership or a family structure with somebody who's abusive. And anytime you don't hold them accountable for their abuse, all that you've taught them is that they can get away with that thing. And then the next time they're in a state and in a mindset to be abusive, they're going to push the envelope even further because you've already taught them that they can get away with the thing that they just did. And that's
yeah.
definitely like what the media's reactions to all of this is doing. It's like normalizing the abuse.
I think the media thought for a long time that they were gonna get some gotcha moment, and that would be it. And I think most of them have kind of given up on that, but I still definitely see that in them when they talk about him. It's like they just want some gotcha, and that'll win, and then we'll just all walk all this back.
Yep.
And I don't
Actually,
think they realize that that's not going to work.
yeah. So actually, that reminds me of we were talking earlier off mic about trans men being infantilized and made invisible. And that's like really similar to, with these bathroom bills, there are certain people more like progressive liberal types who are like, oh, you're going to have a big bearded trans man in the woman's bedroom, thinking that not bedroom, bathroom.
Bathroom.
You're going to have a big burly trans man in the women's bathroom, thinking that that's like a gotcha moment.
Yeah, yeah. Is this what you want?
But actually, it's not, because the whole point is to push all trans people, trans women, and trans men completely out of public life.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah. They're not going to let that trans guy in the woman's bathroom. Like they're going to be on him, harassing him. Like, yeah, this is not
right.
some gotcha moment.
No, it's just a way to make trans people out themselves, even if they pass,
Yeah.
or risk breaking the law and being made an involuntary laborer of the state.
Well, it's funny. Like, there's a real problem with like trans kids having bladder infections because they just won't go to the bathroom all day at school. So they'll eat very little, they'll drink very little, and they'll hold it all day. And sometimes they wind up with bladder infections. But that's just, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, I don't know. A lot of people our age. Well, nobody our age remembers, but back in like the 50s and the 60s, there weren't public bathrooms for women. Like all the public facilities were for men practically because women were supposed to be at home.
Right.
But that's what they did is they just were trying to drive women out of public life. It's the same thing
Right.
they're trying to do to trans people. They want to drive us out of public life.
Right. And then also too, like the whole reason that you want to drive your undesirable population out of public life is so that when you disappear them later on when you're doing your ethnic cleansing,
Who will
who
notice?
will notice they've been out
Yeah.
of public life this whole time. Yeah. So resist with your entire being at every moment that you can.
Well, I mean, I think right now, if you're in a place where you can, like as a trans person, I think visibility really matters right now.
Yeah,
Like
agreed.
if you are in a place where it's safe enough for you to do that, and like if you're not, like you got to protect yourself. Don't let anybody make you feel bad for protecting yourself.
Mhm.
But if you're in a place where you can be visible, this is the time to do it.
Yep.
People need to see other people like us.
Mhm.
It matters.
Yep. Rocky Horror has never been more important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rocky Horror is like explicitly political theater now.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
and you know what? All across the country right now, it doesn't matter where you're listening to us, there is probably a Rocky Horror Shadowcast in your region, and you should definitely go see them.
Yes. And even just to let off steam, it's really beautiful. We have fun. We get weird. We let our freak flags fly, and it's great. It's a space where you don't dream it, you be it.
That's great.
Don't dream it, be it. It's so good. Yeah. Go check out Rocky Horror Picture Show. I love the idea of like some very ordinary vanilla person hearing this and going to Rocky Horror with absolutely no expectation of what's going to happen and then just being bombarded with this spectacle that is a Rocky Horror Picture Show shadowcast. Like, I love that.
Oh my gosh. I never even thought these things were possible.
No, for
Yeah.
real. For real. So, as it is with most of the stuff coming out of the Republican regime, the cruelty is the point. And another great example of a way in which this is true is have you heard about this? The children, some as young as 4 years old, going into immigration court with
Oh
no
my God.
lawyers.
I've seen some of the videos. It's wild. I mean, these kids are just like being kids. Some of them are like as young as 3 or 4. You know, the judge asks them, do they know why they're here? They have no idea what's going on. Some of these kids don't even speak English. How are they
Yeah.
supposed to know what's going on? I mean, it's hard enough for adults.
Right. And of course, they don't know to ask for a lawyer because they are legally obligated to give you one if you ask.
Yeah.
So
Well, in immigration court, I think it's a little different. That's in criminal court.
right.
But yeah. It's monstrous, though, because this has been going on since before the first Trump administration.
Mm-hmm.
And during the inter-Trump period, when Biden was president just a minute ago, like they didn't exactly fix this either. But the contract that they had to provide children with lawyers for these hearings, the Trump administration cut.
Right.
$200 million contract. But there were plenty of kids before that contract went up or was cut weren't getting lawyers either.
Right.
The woman in this article says, the lawyer in this article says that before the contract was cut, it was 30 to 40% of children on the docket were without lawyers. Now the number's 50 to 60.
Yeah. So it was already like not great, but now it's like half bad.
Yeah. And the judge is going to decide to send them back to where, you know, like these people sent these kids here hoping that they would have a better situation because whatever they're going through is nightmarish enough to send their kid unaccompanied across the border. I mean, some of them might have been accompanied and now their parents have been taken away from them. They're
Right.
arrested on other charges or
And
whatever.
some of them are so young they wouldn't even be able to tell you what happened.
Right. And then who are you going to give the kid back to? Do you
Right.
even know where these kids are going to go?
Well, I mean, not last time when they just lost tons and tons of kids.
Yeah. Where are the children from the first Trump regime? Administration. There we go.
Well,
Yeah. I don't know if people remember r/ Where Are the Children? Where during the first Trump administration, they had all those kids out in what are extensively concentration camps, and they were doing the child separation policy from the separating the kids from the adults. So they come across with parents or family members, and then they separate them, and then they become unaccompanied minors.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's ghoulish and like cartoonishly evil.
Yeah,
Like it's the kind of thing that you would write in a Disney movie to make someone be cartoonishly evil.
it's like if Franz Kafka wrote about a bureaucracy that was doing all the horrible things it does on purpose.
Yeah.
Just elaborate and cruel.
Yeah. Pretty monstrous. You know, it reminds me of I think it was a tweet or whatever, but it was someone was like, this isn't what America stands for. America stands for, opens up a history book. Oh no. Frantically starts flipping through the pages. No, no, no. No, 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 no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great. The one thing that I'm trying to keep in perspective is like, you know, I've seen a lot of commentary in different sections of the internet where people are like, so I think it's clear from this point that like no single person should ever be allowed to have this much power ever again.
Oh, of course,
Um
right?
and like with that being said, you know, I'm hopeful to see the world that we could make if we can just make it through this moment in history and this storm that we're weathering and
Yeah.
you know, and really take some action and have some general assemblies and some general strikes. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to get you. I don't want to get you too riled up.
Ooh, general strike. Mercy.
Oh, a
That's who declare.
general strike. Oh,
I'm having the vapors.
but sir, we hardly just met, and already. Now, one of my new favorite things to say to people is whenever anyone asks me, "How are you?" My new favorite response is, "The horrors persist, but so do I." And so I wish that to you, dear listener.
Yeah.
May you persist in spite of the horrors.
Like the cat poster says, hang in there.
Oh, the cat poster. What a simple time the cat poster was from. Remember to rest. Self-care is an act of revolution.
Yeah.
And I think
Especially
it was
now.
Brianna Weiss who said, self-care is not bubble baths and chocolate cake. Self-care is choosing to build a life that you don't need to regularly escape from.
Well, the antidote to despair is action.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta dig our way out of this mess. Dig up, stupid. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think that's a good way of putting it. We've just been, it's like the roads before cars, because everyone had horses. There was just a lot of shit around,
lots of shit around.
and in many ways we're being rocketed backwards in history, and just being covered in shit.
Well,
and digging your way out of the shit road.
This week they got rid of regulations on dairy.
Oh, good.
Obviously not all regulations, but like RFK went into that and has been hacking that up. He's one of those raw milk guys.
Oh my god.
So, I mean, there's just shit everywhere.
Did you also see the Republican administration? They were very excited to announce that they had banned color dyes and food additives in the United States. And then when you look into it, what they actually did was they had a conversation with some companies that were like, yeah, sure, we won't use any dangerous additives or dyes, but
I mean, some of those were a little sketch, like Red 40 and Yellow 5, I think.
But here's the thing,
but that's not a priority.
They're already adhering to the FDA's guidelines, and the administration is also like dismantling the FDA at the same time.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
So like, what they really got was like a gentleman's agreement to do something
to do something about the dyes, but then like ignore all the other things.
Right. But if they've already decided that what they're using is safe, then they don't have to change anything that they're doing at all.
Yeah.
It's also
We've
interesting.
Investigated ourselves and found nothing wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's these same people that are always saying how corrupt agencies are. And all of a sudden it's like, but corporations are going to police themselves and adhere to a friendly agreement that we made.
Oh my god. Okay, so I saw this meme this week, and it's the face of the girl who's like,
Oh
okay.
yeah.
So anywho, it's tyranny.gov, and she's all like, tyranny.com. And she's all like, yeah, it's what libertarians want. They want tyranny.com, not tyranny.glove.
Right.
Don't tread on me unless it's corporations.
Yep. And then please use your personhood to tread on me, daddy, if you are a corporation.
The free market. They want the free market to regulate everything. Free market that definitely does not actually exist. All markets are regulated everywhere.
Yep.
Including the United States.
Yep. Yeah, and what's interesting is they're always regulated in favor of the people who own the most stuff.
Interesting that it's almost like
Yeah.
there's some kind of connection there.
Really bizarre.
And I should point out that causation does not necessarily mean correlation, as we
Mhm.
should have all learned from our science
Mhm.
classes.
Mhm. Ice cream doesn't make you a murderer. Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
But maybe the people who own everything passing all the laws
Yeah, right. And what
and
they
those laws
choose
working
to
for them.
criminalize, and remember, criminalization means that like these are people that you've deemed it's fine if you extract their labor by force.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Slavery is legal under the
if
14th Amendment as a punishment for a
right,
crime.
right. So,
They did not get rid of slavery.
so who do they criminalize, right?
Yeah.
And also, in recognizing that, recognizing the very long lineage. And although this moment is definitely a a very tense moment where it seems like some really major shifts are happening, that are going to have cataclysmic results for ordinary people all over the world, and consequences for, of course, us freaks as well, and us freaks first. But beyond that, the people that have been marginalized this entire time, right?
Yeah.
And recognizing that, like, yeah, um, we did fight the Nazis, but also the Nazis got some of their best ideas from the way America treated African Americans and the way America treated the native populations here.
Yeah.
So, like, while this moment is this like touchstone, it's also got this very deep and painful history of fascism and oligarchy, and the the subjugation of people against their will.
So the British came up with the idea of the concentration camp
Mm-hmm.
during the Anglo-Dutch War, the Boer War, as they called it. Um, that was one of the wars that made Winston Churchill famous. Actually,
Okay.
before World War One and before World War Two, we all know
Mm.
him from World War Two, but like he got his start in the military
Mm.
during the Boer War. Anywho, the British came up with the idea for concentration camps, which they used on the Dutch population, lots of populations in South Africa. But they got the idea from the American reservation system, how for years and years we've concentrated native populations into smaller and smaller reservations.
Mm-hmm.
They just took that idea farther. And then the Germans took that idea to its natural conclusion.
Right. And now its natural conclusion is coming home to roost.
Yeah, now that's coming here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, America has always sponsored concentration camps and things like that. We just do that through propping up dictators, which was a lot of what USAID did. Like, don't get me wrong, they did good programs. Well, good depends on intention, right? They did programs that furthered US soft power throughout the world. Yeah, maybe it was vaccines in some cases and mosquito nets in others, but it was also propping up dictators all across the globe, which furthered US interest in whatever the region they were in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when we overthrew the Shah of Iran in the 1960s. Um, we overthrew the president of Iran, replaced him with the Shah, and then that guy was replaced by the Iranian Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
But and so like we create a lot of problems around the world by doing those kind of things.
Right. Right. So, like, acknowledging, that America's had her hands dirty this whole time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
I mean that's what the CIA is.
what
That's just
would
a whole branch of government that has their hands dirty all the time.
yeah, but what would be really beautiful, right, would be an America who, for the first time, actually lived up to her own hype and really
Mm.
was actually what she represented herself to be. I hope that I can live my life in service to that idea. I'd like to see the America that I was sold as a kid. I would like, for the first time, that to be the reality that we have.
I just don't know that they ever sold it to us as a reality for everybody. And and also like it was deeply problematic from the start. Like It's still built on stolen land. It's still built on all the injustices. I want to live up to a better
I
country.
mean, like
I want to live up to better ideals.
with liberty and justice for all,
Those are words
including
I could get
immigrants,
behind.
including native peoples, including all us marginalized freaks
Okay,
of all
so
varieties.
maybe I should go back on that for a minute. Maybe what I should say is that the America that we were sold as the beacon among nations.
Hmm.
The I don't want to say city on a hill, but like that light to the world, but with justice and reconciliation
Hmm. And
and
reparations.
oh my god, absolutely reparations.
Yeah.
And giving the land back to the people
Yeah.
who were here before us, who we violently nearly exterminated,
Yep.
giving them back their autonomy. Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to sound harsh.
Hmm.
I just
No, I mean,
I think if we're
yeah.
gonna we can't go back to the way things were, even if that was an
No.
illusion.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
Is that we can't go back because it's never been what we said.
yeah,
If
it's never been.
we want it to be what we've said for the first time, we
Well,
get to move forward into that, maybe.
I mean that people talk about whiskey taxation, but that was some of the founding reasons of Shays Rebellion.
Right.
For our listeners who remember, it was the rebellion that George Washington put down after the American Revolutionary War. When Congress decided that they had to they had to like raise a tax, and
Mhm.
so one of the things they taxed was whiskey.
Mhm.
Some people call Shays Rebellion the Whiskey Rebellion,
Right.
but like a lot of people during the American Revolution were sold that idea of liberty, that we could be a democratic and just nation, and then when it came time to be paid by the Continental Congress, something that they had been promised the whole war, a lot of them never got paid.
Right.
A lot of them didn't like get bonuses. They didn't get the land that they were promised. And then at the end of the day, most of those guys didn't even get to vote because they weren't land owning rich guys. And then their women sure as hell didn't. And a lot of women fought in the Revolutionary War.
Mhm.
This revolution that they fought for and was sold as all men are created equal got sniped out from underneath them by the bourgeois aristocrats.
Right. Right. And also too, there were a lot of African American people that fought in the Revolutionary
Oh,
War
yeah.
under the banner of all men are created equal, only to be told, just kidding, you're still a slave for another 100 years. Yeah. The point of all of it is essentially just that America has made a lot of promises that she has never lived up to.
Yeah.
And it would be really cool if that could be our vision. I mean, or even something better than that, right? But like at minimum, the story that we were sold as our national purpose.
Yeah, the
right?
one that people want to believe. Well, I mean, like we all are taught, America's this place, and we want to believe it's that place, and it's just not that place. It's never been.
Right,
but like, how cool would it be if it was?
Right. I mean, I think it could be even better than that. I think that
why shouldn't it be?
Right.
Yeah.
But
if we're going this far, let's go all the way.
At minimum, right? Liberty and justice for all, for real, for the first time. For the first time.
Liberty, equality, and fraternity, like the French used to say.
Right. Get French, fam.
Get French.
You gotta get French up in here.
This would be a great spot for like a made up commercial.
Yeah.
For like
it should be like for our first piece of merch. Yeah. And it's a t-shirt and it just says get French with some fire emojis on it because getting French is fire.
It's the mustard, like French's mustard. It says get French and it's got the fireworks and he's like a bottle of petrol.
No, because then French's is gonna come after us for copyright infringement.
Well, there won't be French's. It'll be just a mustard guy.
Just a mustard guy.
Cartoon mustard
Not
man.
specifically French's.
A non-specific cartoon mustard man. And it says, get French.
Get French. You let us know
Maybe he's operating the guillotine.
You let us know in the comments, fam. Would you like get French the mustard, or would you like get French letters with fire emoji, or some other kind of design?
How would you get French, listener,
How would you get
home?
French, dear
how
listeners?
do you get French?
Let
we
us
want to know.
Let us know in the comments.
Right to the studio. I want a carrier pigeon. No, I'm not accepting comments. I'm accepting carrier pigeons and letters delivered by telegram, guys.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Brushed up on my Morse code just for such an occasion.
Well, you don't need to know. You just call up the telegram office and you say, I want this.
Yeah.
Stop. And they write that. Stop. And then they like do.
Oh, so they do the
They
whole
do the
thing.
do. Yeah.
Gotcha. Awesome.
We just get the letter stop.
So, this is a mess, and we're a mess, and this whole thing's a mess.
It's a mess. Oh
It's
my God.
but we're here on Casual Friday, and this seems like a good time for a little outro.
Yeah. Maybe we've done enough for today.
Our usual plugs.
Maybe we should skulk home.
If you are not yet involved with your local Food Not Bombs.
Oh, great people.
Great place to start.
Yeah.
If you don't have a local Food Not Bombs, feel free to make one.
They would appreciate that.
It is a grassroots national organization that feeds people and engages in mutual aid and education.
Community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come down, have a meal, share in the community, talk to your neighbors.
Yep. Every Monday at the Social Justice Center at 5 p.m. in Albany, New York. And a free store that's really, really free every third Saturday of every month.
There's the local repair thing too. That's a local thing here. I don't know a lot about it, but you bring your stuff and people try to help you repair it.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll come back with more information on that.
Yeah. Try to get involved however you can. In terms of organizing, 5051 and Indivisibles are doing some good work right now. It's more of the same kind of reformist, liberal stuff, but it's
a good place to talk to people.
It's certainly better than nothing. And getting out into the streets is a good first step.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to talk to a friendly audience, and it's a good, maybe some of it's kind of Libby, but like, you start talking to people at the thing. Maybe you identify that you got, certain mutual needs or whatever.
Or mutual philosophies.
Yeah, and then just start like, hey, well, you got this, and I got that. And just put them together and see what happens. And that's how we got Reese's. Yeah. Somebody had peanut butter, somebody had chocolate, and they got together and they tried it. They put it together, and people really liked that.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's true.
That's how we got Reese's.
This is not sponsored. We just really, really love Reese's.
Well, I said Reese's. Reese's are good, but I like peanut butter and chocolate. It's a good combo. When we went to that ice cream place the other day, I got a peanut butter, banana, and strawberry. It's just good combos.
Yep.
But if you were sitting
classics
at home and you're thinking I don't know how this whole mutual aid and the solidarity and this organizing thing goes, it literally just all you got to do is go to one of the protests and bring a banana or a strawberry or some peanut butter, and somebody out there will have one of the other three items, and you put those together, you've got a smoothie that's really good, and you've just done a mutual aid. It's that easy. You've just organized a smoothie.
It's true.
Now, if you took that and extrapolated that to other problems that make more sense than just making a smoothie, you could do anything.
And then, if it was a metaphor, wow.
As if it were the whole time.
Yes.
You're not sure
precisely.
I was going anywhere with this, but I was.
No, I believed in you.
Thanks.
Also, peanut butter and chocolate is amazing. Just
Peanut
hands
butter and
down.
chocolate is amazing.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's to say how much longer we'll be able to get chocolate if the tariff situation doesn't improve? But more on that next time.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Oh.
We'll see the fallout or reverse course, or who's to say, really?
Who's to say?
But
I've heard port traffic is down and highway freight traffic is down, which that doesn't bode well.
No, it's not
product
great.
availability.
No, it's not great.
But I mean,
it could be
we can go in a completely different direction by the time this airs. Who knows?
It could be some pandemic level empty shelf situations.
It could. We're not catastrophizing here. It could also not be that.
That would be way better.
But
try to mentally prepare yourself for just about anything, because with all of this chaos, it's sort of impossible to guess how things are going to shake out.
Yeah.
Especially when the strategy keeps changing from day to day.
Right. How do you respond to that?
Right.
If tomorrow it's just going to be something different.
Or it's, one day we're doing this and the next day we're walking it back because that was widely unpopular and got booed very loudly, or had immediate consequences that other people.
The T-bill thing. Remember we were talking about the T-bills? I don't know if we've talked about it on here, but the U.S. global reserve currency is the U.S. dollar, and so if Trump is deliberately tanking the economy, then other countries, Japan in this instance, can sell off their excess reserve currency that is in the US dollar, which makes the T-bill have to have a higher interest rate to attract people to buy it, but also floods the market with these T-bills. So, which is exactly how the British Empire died. The Suez Canal incident of 1967. Wow. The world's reserve currency at that time was the British pound sterling, and the United States dumped all of the reserve pound sterling. And then the OPEC thing, we established the U.S. reserve currency. The U.S. dollar is the reserve currency. But so that the other day, that's why he walked back some of those tariffs.
Right.
You're going to rock the boat. You're rocking the... But don't rock the boat, baby.
So in a world where there may or may not be groceries on your shelves, we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
This has been the Bootleg Bodhisattva, Reverend Nadine Morsch.
And this has been a possum screaming into the void. Hark. Doth the void scream back? What horrors lay in the void? KT Sunshine.
The horrors. And we shall persist in spite of the horrors, because remember, your existence is resistance. And remember, us freaks gotta stick together.